think the high school years are the most crucial years to have an impact on a person's life. Kids are asking all the right questions, and they also have the possibility of getting into all the wrong things. So you have the opportunity through volunteering to be that person in their life that they can go to get their questions answered, or just someone to listen to. And that's so rewarding.
Our goal is to go get that one kid, disciple him, teach him to be a leader in his people group, and teach him how to reach his friends. The goal for us is not to change the external appearance. What we're really trying to do is disciple the inner man to be Christ-like and let that be expressed through the culture that that young person comes from. Youth for Christ in Central Ohio is hard to get your arms around in one sentence because we do so many different things, from a family counseling center to kids in detention centers to kids in wheelchairs to kids in urban contexts to kids in suburban and even rural kids. We also work with church youth pastors and have built a network of collaborating ministries together, so it's a pretty broad range of ministries. Our ministry to orthopedically handicapped kids is one of the ministries that I just stand back in awe of.
You're fine, buddy, you're fine.
Bud McKinney, who organizes that ministry, who, because of the life journey that God brought him on through his son who had spina bifida, gave him both experience and passion to love the kids.
You'd be amazed how much they want to learn about the Bible and how much they yearn to know more about God every day. They'll hear little things they'll pick up, and the Bible begins to get to them and begin to make sense to them, and they begin to just grow so much in their faith. I mean, I've seen kids that come from troublemakers in the school that come in, you take them back into school, and the teachers say, "What happened to these kids?" Well, it ain't me, it's God that's changing their lives.
I view Youth for Christ as a missionary arm of the church. We want to support the church and endorse their work, but ultimately we feel our calling is to the kids that aren't in the church, aren't going to be in the church, and are unlikely to be reached by anybody if we don't go and be the arm of the church that's a missionary to that people group. And the counseling ministry that we have kind of comes alongside that and provides whole family intervention. Even though we run many groups and many locations across the city multiple times every week, at the end of the day, the life change that we see can only happen if there's people investing relationally with the kids.
Growing up here, for me, it was a lot of hunger and pain because my mom and them smoked crack, and they still do to this day, so it's like just trying to get by mainly. We moved all the time because we couldn't afford to pay bills. My mom would get evicted. They would buy us games or the TV for the house, but by the 10th or 12th, it was gone. They'd pawn it, and then they'd just repeat the process again next month. First of the month, we'd get it out. You know, through the middle of the month, we ain't had no more money, they'd pawn it again. It made me feel lesser than everybody else, because a lot of other people in the hood, you know what I mean, go through struggles, but they had their TV all month. My mom and them lied to me all the time. It was like I didn't want to get to know nobody too much because I didn't want to get attached and then have them lie to me like my mom's did. I could rely on nobody, not a single person. I had to rely on myself. Mom had no more money for crack, so she let the crack dealers come in our house to sell, and they would give her crack to do that. So some other crack dealers down the street didn't like that, so they came in the house, they kicked in the door and put guns in my face like, "Yo, where's the dope at? We'll kill you." So after that, I just moved out like without basically telling my mom. I was like, "Yo, I ain't gonna get killed over your bad habit." The thing with me was I believed in God always. It's just I wasn't walking with the Lord. And when you ain't walking with the Lord, you ain't much better than anyone who's doing crack and not walking with the Lord.
Sean was hardly able to sit and listen to 5 minutes of biblical instruction. Him and his buddies would just laugh and joke, and at times it seemed like this was just never gonna work. But as God moved in his life, he began to see some of the truths that we were talking about in our personal relational time. And he began to start to see the value of his life in the lives of others, of how he could be someone who could have an impact on someone else.
Really wanted to be a pro football player or basketball player. You know, a lot of kids think that. And after I started walking with the Lord, I really could see myself doing the Lord's work.
Sean has understood the things that God has given him apart from what's happened in his life. His ability to be friendly, his ability to help others move towards God because they see him enjoying his relationship with God. There was a time when I thought there was no way that any of these kids could ever be people who would actually do God's work. And watching Sean grow up and being involved with him and seeing the changes that God has caused in his life has proved to me that it's just not true. That any of those kids, just like any kid or any person in the world, can in fact turn into God's worker.
It's just good to have people like Jack, because like I'll see Jack and the stuff that Jack does, it's Jack, but you can see Jesus in there, you know what I mean? And you're like, man, I want to be just like that.
My family was really loving, but my dad was also very abusive, and I never really knew what was going on behind closed doors with their marriage. When I was 5, I'd actually seen the last fight, and the next day was the last time I saw my dad. I didn't really have a father figure in my life, so I tend to look for daddy, I guess you could say, in the opposite sex when I'm looking for a relationship, or I'm looking for approval or affection or attention from them, because I didn't have that for a long period of time. I don't trust people naturally. Like, it takes me a long time to really trust somebody. I usually give people the benefit of the doubt until they prove me wrong, but it's very hard for me to just trust someone right away.
I think with any suburban kid, on the outside it looks like they've got it all together and they don't have any problems. But when you get into their life, just like Tiffany's life, you realize that she is looking for people that love her and care for her as she is, and it's not a conditional thing.
I used to hang out with this woman, her name's Paula Jean Moses, and she invited me to go to spring break with Campus Life, and that was really fun. We made a lot of memories there, and I just clicked with her instantly. At one point, she had told me that she was still a virgin, and I really admired her about that, because being in her 20s and not married and not really dating anyone, but she was still a virgin, and you don't really run into a lot of people who are like that. And it inspired me that I would be okay.
Our times together, one-on-one and in a small group Bible study, was probably the most beneficial times for Tiffany. We talked a lot about who God made you to be, what God has in store for your life, and telling her, I mess up, I think wrongly of God sometimes, and God still loves me, and God still uses me.
God loves you unconditionally, and there's nothing you can really do to change that. And that helped a lot with not having to go to guys for that same feeling.
Her involvement in Campus Life has given her a level of confidence, and she's believing that she's going to make it. She's a feeler. She's compassionate. I can see God really using her in one-on-one relationships, but also giving her a platform where she has a story to tell, and she's going to be able to inspire a lot of people.
I want to help these folks find God, because there's all of these guys and girls that just don't seem to have anybody trying to reach them.
They're making some of the most major life decisions that they'll ever make at this age, and they're discovering who they are. And if they can find out who God made them to be and who they are in Him, then they're going to be able to make some pretty good decisions, and their ability to reach out to other people and not be wandering around in their 40s going, I really wish I could do it over.
The real ministry, the real work, the real life-changing element of Youth for Christ is the young people who are coming up and embracing the challenge to lead and to become leaders and to change their next generation.
A lot of people do the suit and collar thing. I still want to have baggy jeans, and people go, that's good to see. This guy right here stayed in the hood and didn't leave, you know what I'm saying? He's willing to still go through the struggle to help spread the word for less fortunate kids.
I want to grow so